Welcome to Roche Rally 3. This is the Auto Quartz, one of many cars available in the game. This is the car as it looks when you purchase it. I'm going to show you a fairly simple decaling project that may improve the appearance of this car. To me, it looks like there is an airstream that follows through the side door back panel area there into the rear wheel well. Looks to me like there should be a vent leading into the rear wheel well there. This simple little decaling project is one you should easily be able to handle. And I'm going to show you how to put a black bar there. So if we go into upgrades, we'll customize, which will lead us to the decaling menu in the game. Now, over on the far left, there are all the decals available on this car. I'm going to find a decal somewhere near where I want to put that black bar vent into the rear wheel well. The Castro looks like a big decal there. Okay, so if you want to find this yourself, you start at the top of the list of decals available on the car, and it's the first Castrol down. Now if we go hit the plus mark up in the top left hand corner, we can double up the Castrol, but we don't want a Castrol where we want that vent. So now we have to go down to the bottom left, the R button there with a wave underneath it. We'll turn that to then one of the other options is the different shapes of decals. Now we've got the star symbol there and a wave, and we're going to pick the square. It has picked a sort of a white color, or the color that the Castrol was in previously. But I don't want to use a white. It's going to make it hard to see exactly what I'm using there. So I'm going to turn that black by hitting the color palette over in the far right hand side, hitting the black. Now there are tools on the edge of the circle ringing that decal that I can use to shape that decal. I'm hitting the one where it looks like a page to a page, where they're different size pages, which adjusts the shape of it in both directions. Now I'm using one of the arrows to narrow it. I could also widen it that way. And if I swipe outside of that circle, I can rotate the car to figure out what exactly kind of projection I want to use to apply that decal. Now if I swipe within the circle, I can slide the decal over to where I want it. Much of this should be covered in my basic videos for this basic decaling for this game. Now I just used the circle symbol with an arrow on the circle on the edge of the circle to try to rotate my decal. You notice it doesn't line up particularly well. It only rotates fairly coarsely. So to do something about that, there's a magnet, green magnet up in the top right corner. I'm going to hit the green magnet, turn it white. That will allow me to rotate my decal fairly finely, which means I can probably get it better aligned. And it looks like my decal's way too wide, so I'm going to narrow it up. And I'm going to shorten it as well. Get it close to the size I want to use. Looks like it could be just a little bit narrower. Okay, that looks to be about the right width. It's a little, maybe at the right height, but it's a little too long. Now we could play around by adjusting the length of it, but I find you do that, it adjusts fairly coarsely as well, unless you spend a lot of time with it. So I'm going to hit the green check mark down in the bottom right, which will freeze it in place. So we can take a look to see what that looks like. Yeah, it's definitely too far up. It's not too bad downwise and laterally, but we should also check on the other side of the car. Sometimes the decals get placed just slightly different from one side of the car to the other. You notice it looks like it's a little further from the edge of the car, closer to the side of the car on this side. This side it looks ever so slightly further out from the car towards the wheel well area. So, and the other thing is, when you're working with some cars where they have flared fenders, your symmetry does not work sometimes at all. Even when you use the shoot through, which is just below the magnet, we've got the symmetry on, which is the green one way off to the right there. Now, what I'm going to do, instead of trying to change the shape of that, I'm going to hit the plus mark, which is going to put exactly over top of where we were just working with. I'm going to change this one to a bright red. Now, I'm going to mask where I don't want the black. It's sometimes a little easier to mask the color than it is to go in there and try to shape it exactly perfectly. It also helps if you've got a larger screen, you might be able to see a little better what you're doing here. And you notice when I'm adjusting this, the decal seems to be jumping around quite a bit. So that's probably close to where I want it. So instead of being red, I'm going to change it to car color. Now hit the check mark. You can see already I didn't mask it well enough. So we'll go back into the one which is above the black. We'll turn it back to red so I can see it a little better. I'm going to rotate it this way. And now we'll try that. Now let's have a look at that. Not quite perfect, so I'm going to go back into it, move it just a bit after I change it back to red color. Okay, it jumped considerably. So there, we'll try that. Oops, I forgot. Change it to car color. Change it to car color. As you can see, even simple little projects like this can be somewhat complicated. Well, what do you know? That doesn't look too bad on this side. How about we check the other side? The other side works too. Now, another thing to do, down the bottom here, we can change the color of the drivers, the red patch they're working on their shoulders and their pants. We could change that. We could change the wheel colors. We could go with various colors that are available here. And you notice there's no check mark when we do that. And the other thing I really want to show you, we changed the color of the car. It used to be white. We just changed it yellow. Our vents are still there. We can even change it to an orange color. Still there. To me, that looks more like a proper car. It's a fairly simple little change. It's something you may not notice unless you decide you want to spend a little bit of time on decalling. And you notice this project's fairly easy to do. It's a project you could tackle yourself if you want to improve your car. There are a few other cars in the game that have vents that you could customize as well. There's a couple with roof vents. We can find them here. Well, this one's got a hood vent over top of the front wheel well. I decided to modify slightly. We can find some of the cars with roof vents. Okay, this one's got a roof vent. It's not going to show up really well because I'm using a fairly dark color here with a customized two-tone color. It's also got a vent in the front bumper. Here we go. This one you'll be able to see the roof vent. I darkened the roof vent inside that one. And they're a little awkward to do. You got to make sure you don't get a projection back through the vent area onto the rest of the car. You could mask that portion of it, or you could just be very careful putting the vent in there. So, and if you notice some of my cars are a little different than yours, that's because I'm using a two-tone coloring system with a translucent layer over top. So I hope that helps you out with a simple little project. If you want to try it yourself, it's an easy way to get into decaling in the game. And to call that a video.